Welcome back to the Coach Dev Academy YouTube channel. I'm Bart Horsten, and I'll be taking you for a hot lap guide today in the IR04 around Laguna Seca. Let's get into it. Okay, so now I'm going to take you through a bit more of a detailed guide around the track and give you a few tips and how you can improve your lap time around here in this car. So the first thing is we're going to the last corner at Laguna Seca, and in this case I was doing hot lap after hot lap, but especially in qualifying, if you're trying to set up your laps, I would recommend slowing down a bit and really making sure you maximize this exit. You can run all the way up to the red little kind of sausage on the inside, and making sure we have really early throttle application in second gear. And you can use all of this green as well. It's a little bit bumpy, but it is definitely faster to use all the green and just carry a bit more speed, pick up the throttle a bit earlier and use that track. You will not get off track, so I recommend doing that when you're starting a lap as well as at the end. So as you can see, it's a bit bumpy there, but you can run your wheels on the runoff area on the right as well. Coming up to the first corner now, we're just trying to shorten our line a bit, is all on the straight, nothing crazy. Just smoothly going to the left so we're not scrubbing the tires too much or anything like that, but also just, trying to reduce the distance before we go into the braking zone for turn one. So we're going to go out to the right, and don't be too late doing this because then it will upset your braking zone for turn one. But we're going to go out all the way to the right here. We want to use all the track and even a bit of this runoff area. Don't worry about getting sand on your tires. It won't affect the braking or anything like that. So just make sure you use this if you're braking late enough. So out to the right-hand side of the track, like I said, in this case, I've got two wheels on the runoff area on the right. And the first corner is really tricky here at Laguna Seca. It's a third gear corner in this car. It's really important to roll quite a bit of speed, but also not run too deep into the corner at the same time. If you run wide, it'll really show up in terms of your lap time. So even though it's important to roll quite a bit of speed through, we can't end up too far offline. And even though it looks like a double left-hander, you've got to really make sure that you just treat it as one corner, and you don't get sucked into the fact that there's kind of two apexes here. So really, we want to have our slowest point in the corner right here, in the middle of the two, and like I said, treat it like one left-hand curve, rather than getting too perplexed or confused about the fact that there's two inside curbs. For me, just making sure we use all the track on the entry. It's not super important to be all the way next to that sausage curb because you're probably in a bit early if that's the case. But important to definitely be on this inside curb, and that we're braking into the corner, carrying good speed there. And then as we come out on the exit, we're trying to just pick up the throttle quite quickly in this car, not too slow. If you're a bit slow with the throttle, it will understeer a bit. So we want to be fairly direct with our throttle pickup. And again, running on this curve, it's a good marker at that point in the corner. You'll often find if you're getting to the left-hand curb, you will make the exit. If you don't make it to this curb, you're probably going to end up too wide when you're picking up the throttle. So using all the exit curb here, you can also, if it's really on the limit, run the wheel off and you won't get an off track. Ideally not though, usually. And into turn 2, which is a medium speed right-hander, 2 kind of quick right-handers in a row coming up now. And yeah, the most important thing I'd say here is just to make sure we're straight on it. So we're out of turn 1. Straight away, we're going to prepare the car for turn 2. So all the way to the left-hand side of the track. Left, 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 left. And then use all the entry curb. Really important for this track that we're using all these entry curbs because there's no runoff areas or anything like that. So fully utilizing the entry here. And then carrying speed. Not a very hard brake. Quite a soft brake on the entry here. You can see in my inputs in the bottom left, it's fairly small brake that we're doing here. And that's just because we're using the brake to help turn the car and just slow it down a little bit. But generally, like I said, super important to be soft here. So we're carrying good momentum through the corner. And again, quite a direct throttle pickup. Basically, as you come past that little red sausage, that is your marker for, okay, I can pick up the throttle now. And you can see, just start to see this exit curb around here. It's quite flat, which makes it a bit tricky. Like a lot of corners on this track, but you got to just make sure you're looking up there and not running too wide. You will get away with dropping a wheel here, like I do on this lap, without an off track. If you go any more than this off, you probably will get an off track, so just be aware of that, but you can push it a bit. Okay, so really important exit this is it's setting us up for the back straight coming up. Again, a very similar corner here, a little bit faster than the previous right-hander. We've got to use all the entry curb once again, holding 4th gear through both these corners. And just a part lift, so it's important to try and carry as much throttle as we can and have a nice short lift. So in this case, you can see just off to 0%, but straight away back on the throttle again. You don't want to be waiting around on this corner, just sitting with 0% throttle on, or you can't be braking here either. It'll really hurt your run down the straight. So it's really important to carry momentum. And when we rotate this car, that we're fairly direct with the steering and with the throttle, just to get it in to help turn the car. And not very complicated in terms of where we want to put the car, using all the entry and running up to the red sausage on the inside. Early throttle pickup's going to help you a lot here. So really important exit, especially in the race. This corner, one of the trickiest corners on the track, this left-hander. Again, using the entry curb on the right here. Super important. I'm braking around this little white patch you can see on the right, just before the 2 board coming up on the right. And again, it's not a heavy brake here. Don't get too caught up in trying to brake late and push your entry here. The most important thing is that we're smooth and that we carry good speed into the corner, and that we have a good throttle, good exit with our throttle pickup. So don't go chasing speed on the entry if you're looking for a bit more time into this corner. So smooth with the steering as well as we come out of the brake, and make sure we're trying to use all the track and get all the way to this inside curb where all this camber is down low. If you overshoot here, you'll really get punished in terms of lap time. And if you get into this camber, you'll be able to pick up the throttle pedal nice and quick, like I did here, and run out to the exit on the right. So another quick left-hander, blind this time, especially in these single seaters, you're super low, so you only see it at the last minute. Again, use the entry curb on the right, important at this track. Just making sure we prep the car really early. And you can see here we're committing before we even see the apex of the corner, which is part of what makes it such a tricky corner. That braking point is just at the 2 board, between the 2 board and this little white stripe on the right-hand side. The main thing here, though, really is carrying good speed is probably the first thing. So not much of a brake. Again, probably not super important to be super late and attacking the entry. But if you have a soft brake, then you carry a lot of speed into the corner. The other thing that's super important is we want to be on throttle by the apex. If you're not, the car will be very unsettled, and you'll probably get a snap of oversteer and end up wide in the sand. And it's important here that we had that soft brake, we carry good speed in, but we're controlling the car on the throttle all the way through this corner, because it just makes it much more predictable on the exit. And when you're trying to obviously do a race and do multiple quick laps in a row, you don't want to be not knowing what the car's going to do in a corner like this, where you've got camber and it's blind and it's got a bit of a dip and this knobbly curb on the inside, you want to kind of kiss the inside, the red curb just. But if you run it over the top of it, you will get fired wide. So be aware of that. A bit like some of the other corners on this track, you can run a wheel off here and not get too punished in terms of lap time and not getting off track, but it's a fine line. You can see the sand trap gravel area drops away quite quickly, so you don't want to push your luck too much there. Okay, so up the hill now in 5th gear. And this corner, again, going to go over it again. Pretty simple, but we would need to prep well, and we want to be on the left-hand side of the track at this point. The corkscrew which is coming up. So fully on the left where this white stripe is on the left-hand side of the track. And then as we reach it, we're going to turn to the right a bit, position the car so it's straight for the crest. And again, so we're using all the track on the right-hand side. Your braking point it's very difficult here. It's super easy to make a mistake because of that. So again, it's not a corner where you want to go chasing the entry a lot in this car. So the braking point is a little bit before this white stripe and this curve coming up on the right is kind of, my reference is, okay, so I turn here, now I've got it straight, now I'm braking. So that's kind of the pattern how you want to do things. And that's why it's so important you get to the left-hand side of the track here, because it can delay everything and upset your braking afterwards as well if you're not getting to the left-hand side of the track on time. So again, straight line when we're braking over the crest, a little bit tricky here. Down to 3rd gear. Important to not get sucked into the apex. And again, if you position well, you will stay on the right for the crest. And it's going to take a bit of practice to get your positioning right for this corner. But make sure that we're on the right-hand side of the track and we're straight over this crest so that we've got the full width of the track to use when we turn in. So not turning in yet, not getting sucked into the apex super early, which will cause you to run wide. We're just going to wait, straight line, and now we're going to turn as this the end of the blue and white curving. You can see here, turn into the camber, really using the camber of the corner now in 3rd gear, and just kissing the inside curb. It's really important here to carry a lot of momentum through the corner, and the reason for that is because if you pick up the throttle too early, if you pick up the throttle, let's say like here, because you've slowed it down too much, you've gone really tight or something like that, you will upset the car as it comes over the crest of the corkscrew, and it's pretty hard to control. You probably have to lift out, have a snap or something like that. So that's why it's important to carry a lot of speed in, but don't be braking late. Just bleed out of the brake, soften your brake input on the entries of the corner, so you're rolling a lot of speed towards the apex and using the camber. So again, really tricky corner. We're now in the camber on the apex. Get left, and it's going to go straight for a second here as we go over the top of the corkscrew, and that's where we pick up the throttle. That as soon as we can get out of that left divot, we pick up the throttle, hold a bit of throttle again because it'll allow us to control the car. You can see I don't go to full throttle here; it's about 50% throttle, and that's again because if you pick up full throttle here, it'll spin down the hill. So you've got to be careful and just control it. Pick up part throttle here, and then as soon as you sit, the car sits in the camber, you can feel the rear grip up. Then you can pick up full throttle and accelerate down the hill. And as a positioning, again, you'll kind of, if you take the left right, you're forced to sit on this part of the track. It's just a case of using the camber, carrying speed down the hill is, the most important thing is that we get that full throttle as soon as we grip up and that we're carrying a lot of speed into the corkscrew because it's going to affect our run all the way down to the second last corner. Okay, so here, it's important to work back to the right. You don't need to be fully over to this right-hand curve coming up because we're not in a super heavy GT car or anything like that, so it's not necessary, and it's just kind of wasting track and wasting time. So it's not really important for us here. But it is important to move back to the right a bit just to open up the corner enough that we keep it flat and quite smooth for this next left-hander. And this should be flat. It might take a few laps to build up to it at first. You can always short shift as well if it's a difficulty into 5th. But basically, you just want to be as smooth as possible with your line here. You want to use, let the car exit how it wants to, let it free up on the exit. and use all the road on the entry here as well on the inside. It's super important because there's a bit more camber on the inside of the track, and if you miss that, it's very easy to run wide. So super important that every lap you do here that you're always making sure you're hitting this inside curb, just so you can get consistent and carry good speed, because you'll probably have a moment on the exit otherwise, and you won't be able to get back to the left for the next corner. So as you can see here, like a lot of the corners on this track, straight away you got to reposition for the next corner. So for this right-hander, we need to get all the way over to the left. Ideally, get to this left curb. It's not always going to be possible, and don't. It's one of those things where if you're out wide on the previous left-hander, don't risk upsetting the car for this right-hander just to get all the way left. Sometimes you won't be able to get back, but we want to ideally try and get all the way back to this left-hand curve. And this right-hander is just a very fast corner where we want to carry as much speed as possible. Don't brake early here. Don't brake super early. And pick up throttle early, because you'll just understeer and you won't use the camber right. What you really want to do is fire the car in. You can turn in early, 100%. So you can see I'm quite early in here, just because you want to get into that groove in the camber and you carry lots of speed in. Not much of a brake, down to 4th gear. And then as the car sits in the camber, a bit like on the corkscrew, you can have quite a quick throttle pickup now to the exit, and you'll find yourself out near the exit here as well. And it's one of those things where very easy to run wide, so be aware of that. So you quickly up to 5th on the exit, and once again, we need to quickly reposition for this left-hander, the final corner. Get all the way back to the right-hand side of the track. Again, ideally getting back for this entry curb, but it is tricky and not always going to be possible. Braking point for me is always after the two boards. So once I've gone past this two board on the right, I know I can hit the brakes. And really important, probably the most, I think most important braking zone in terms of braking efficiently. So, make sure you're getting a lot of your braking done early in the braking zone, hitting high pressure, maintaining that brake pressure, and getting down to 2nd gear quite quickly. So you really want to decelerate the car as quickly as possible. And then smooth as you come out of the brake here, so you don't upset the car. And again, rolling into as close as we can to this inside red curb, and then pick up the throttle quite aggressively on this corner exit as well. Probably a little bit softer than some of the other corners here because it's a bit lower speed, but you're not really going to be having wheel spin issues in this car. So if you feel like the rear's gripped up on the entry, you're not sliding, then you can be pretty aggressive with the throttle. Most important thing here is just using all the track. I find is sometimes you go into this corner and you don't, you slow down the car too much and you end up too tight. So it's important to make sure where you're not ending up all the way over the inside or having to turn out, and that we're quick on the throttle pickup. So we're using all this green on the exit as well. And that'll do us for the end of the lap. So that was a lap guide around Laguna Seca in the IR04 on iRacing. If you've got any questions, be sure to put them in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next track guide.